Nightmare Unearthed, Exploring Salem's Ghostly Past, written by Elham Ghoreishi in the autumn of 1983, the Salem Police Department received a peculiar call that set into motion a series of events that would leave an indelible mark on the city's history. The caller, identified as Lucas Miller, a renowned pilot, claimed to have been attacked by a ghost wielding an axe within the confines of his own home. As law enforcement officers arrived at the scene, they were met with a disarray that hinted at something far more unsettling than a mere domestic disturbance. Our story, however, begins not with this eerie phone call, but rather 2 months prior, during a period of profound loss for Lucas Miller and his family. Lucas, a man esteemed in his profession, had recently suffered the devastating loss of his wife, Ava, to throat cancer. The once vibrant home they shared now stood as a silent testament to grief, filled with memories of a life that had been abruptly cut short. The weight of their sorrow hung heavy in the air, suffusing every corner of the spacious house. Lucas, overwhelmed by his grief, sought solace in his work, throwing himself into his duties as a pilot with fervor. For his children, Maddie and Max, the loss of their mother left an emptiness that seemed insurmountable. Maddie, aged 15, assumed a newfound responsibility in caring for her younger brother, Max, aged 12, as they navigated the turbulent waters of grief together. Despite their shared sorrow, the siblings found strength in each other, their bond deepening as they leaned on one another for support. Yet, amidst the somber backdrop of their mourning, a spark of curiosity ignited within Max, leading him to question the existence of ghosts and whether their departed mother could still see them from beyond the veil. In response, Maddie, echoing their father's pragmatism, dismissed the notion of spirits, attributing significance instead to the memories left behind by the departed. However, as their conversation unfolded, the weight of their grief momentarily lifted, replaced by a sense of wonder and camaraderie as they explored the mysteries of the supernatural together. Intrigued by their conversation and spurred on by a blend of curiosity and the thirst for an adventurous distraction, Max proposed an experiment, to attempt to summon spirits and discern if a realm beyond the physical truly existed. His idea, conveyed with a mix of earnestness and excitement, resonated deeply with Maddie. They viewed it not only as an opportunity to delve into the unknown but also as a playful exploration of the mysteries that lay beyond their comprehension. Eager to embark on this endeavor, they set out that very day to the nearest store in search of a tool for their quest, a Ouija board, known at the time as a veggie board. These boards were quite popular, reflecting the era's fascination with the paranormal and the unseen. With anticipation fueling their steps, the siblings returned home, board in hand, ready to engage in an experience that promised both thrills and revelations. Accompanying the Ouija board was a booklet, its pages filled with what were described as magical incantations. Max and Maddie, fueled by a blend of skepticism and excitement, selected the basement as the setting for their experiment. The basement, with its dimly lit corners and hushed ambience, seemed the ideal location for such a venture. Following the instructions meticulously outlined in the booklet, they set the atmosphere by lighting a candle, its flickering flame casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Seated on the cool floor, hands clasped in unity, they began to recite the words from the booklet, their voices barely audible against the silence enveloping them. Thus commenced an experience that would soon blur the boundaries between their beliefs and the enigmatic world of the unseen. Midway through their cautious recitation, a sudden noise shattered the basement's tranquility, the sharp tap of something striking the small glass window. Startled, fear surged through them, prompting Max and Maddie to hastily abandon their experiment and ascend the stairs, their hearts pounding in their chests. The familiarity and safety of the upstairs environment, bathed in daylight, swiftly dispelled the shadows of dread, replaced by laughter as they rationalized the disturbance as nothing more than a tree branch brushing against the window in the wind. Unbeknownst to them, however, this incident marked a pivotal moment. What had commenced as an innocent exploration of the unknown had inadvertently opened a gateway to something beyond their comprehension. Henceforth, they would find themselves ensnared in a series of unsettling dreams, an unforeseen repercussion of their venture. Little did they realize, their lives were poised to intersect with the realm of nightmares, signaling the onset of a sequence of events that would challenge their perception of reality. Starting from the day after their experiment, Max and Maddie found themselves ensnared in an unsettling phenomenon within the confines of their home. Whispers, faint and incomprehensible, seemed to seep from the very walls themselves, creating an omnipresent murmur that became particularly pronounced when they were left alone. Day by day, these auditory disturbances intensified, growing louder and more frequent, with a significant portion of the sounds seemingly originating from the upper floors of the house. The situation climaxed one fateful night when their father, Lucas, was away on a flight. Bereft of the comforting presence of their sole remaining parent, the siblings felt their fears magnify exponentially. On this night, the whispers escalated into an overwhelming cacophony, transforming the once familiar and secure sanctuary of their home into a realm of terror. Seeking refuge from the menacing symphony, Max and Maddie sought solace in their father's room, clinging to each other tightly in bed. There, amidst the pervasive din, they endured a harrowing night, trembling with fear and eagerly awaiting the dawn to vanquish the darkness and the dread it harbored. Fearing their father's potential skepticism and ire, Maddie and Max opted to conceal their haunting experiences, burdened by the guilt of believing that their innocent curiosity had inadvertently breached the veil to the afterlife, unleashing forces beyond their comprehension or control. This conviction only served to exacerbate their feelings of isolation and terror, as they grappled with the belief that they were directly responsible for the disturbances plaguing their home. As days turned into weeks, the situation within their household grew increasingly dire. The whispers that once murmured now seemed to clamor, their presence an ever louder testament to the children's escalating fears. Lucas's occupation as a pilot meant he was often absent, particularly during the night, leaving Maddie and Max to confront the terrifying nocturnal symphony unaccompanied. Trapped in a cycle of sleepless nights, the siblings found themselves consumed by a mounting dread that amplified with each passing day. This escalating fear permeated every aspect of their lives, casting an oppressive shadow over their once tranquil home. Maddie and Max, bound by their silent struggle, confronted each night with a growing sense of desperation, yearning for a peace that appeared increasingly elusive within their once comforting sanctuary. The relentless nights of unrest began to exact a toll on Maddie and Max, manifesting in their daytime activities as they struggled to remain alert in school and battled worsening moods. Eventually, their deteriorating condition aroused concern from school authorities, prompting them to contact Lucas in a bid to address his children's well-being. Confronted with the school's apprehensions, Lucas sought answers from Maddie and Max, who, under the weight of their father's inquiries, disclosed the haunting experiences that had plagued their nights. Lucas's initial response was one of anguish, compounded by guilt over his frequent absences due to work. He feared that his children's accounts were a manifestation of their grief and a plea for more attention, rather than a genuine reflection of their experiences. In his eyes, Their claims of supernatural disturbances were rooted in the unresolved sorrow stemming from the loss of Ava, their mother. In an attempt to navigate the situation with love and reason, Lucas reassured Maddie and Max of his unwavering affection for them, dismissing their fears as mere superstitions and emphasizing the importance of confronting and processing their grief. He firmly denied the existence of a realm beyond the living, aiming to ground them firmly in reality. Despite the children's earnest efforts to convince their father of the authenticity of their experiences, they found themselves at an impasse. The elusive spirit that haunted their nights remained conspicuously silent in Lucas's presence, rendering their claims unverifiable and leaving them to confront their fears without the validation or support they desperately sought. This paradoxical silence added complexity to their situation, leaving the family teetering on a delicate balance between skepticism and the unseen. Despite Lucas's endeavors to restore a sense of normalcy and security by spending more time at home and engaging in outdoor activities with Maddie and Max, the children's distressing encounters persisted. Their reports of inexplicable noises and the presence of an unseen entity continued unabated, undeterred by attempts to distract or reassure them. The situation reached a new height when Maddie experienced a peculiar and unsettling incident. After selecting a dress and briefly leaving it on her bed to attend to her oral hygiene, she returned to find the garment inexplicably vanished. This event was not isolated but part of a series of unsettling occurrences hinting at the presence of a malevolent force within their home. This unseen entity seemed to engage in acts of vandalism and mischief, relocating personal belongings and disrupting the household in increasingly tangible ways. Food and possessions would inexplicably diminish or migrate to different locations, leaving the family in a state of heightened anxiety and speculation about the intentions and capabilities of the spirit. Confronted with his children's escalating fear and the persistent occurrences of unexplained phenomena, Lucas found himself at a loss. Seeking professional assistance, he arranged for Maddie and Max to see a counselor in hopes that a therapeutic approach might assuage their anxieties. However, the counselor's intervention proved insufficient against the daily escalation of their fears. It became clear to Lucas that more direct and sustained support was required to navigate this challenging period. In a decisive move, Lucas opted to introduce additional support into their lives by hiring a nanny. His selection process was deliberate, seeking someone capable of providing not just supervision but also emotional and psychological guidance, while avoiding individuals who might fuel or exacerbate the children's fears with superstition. This led him to Emma, a young woman with a background in psychology, making her an ideal candidate for the role. Emma's background in psychology suggested she would bring an understanding and analytical approach to the children's experiences, offering them a blend of care, reassurance, and coping strategies for their fears. Lucas hoped that her presence would introduce a stabilizing influence on Maddie and Max, providing them with a sense of security and a confidant during their ongoing ordeal. The arrival of Emma seemed to usher in a brief period of tranquility to the troubled Miller household. Her presence and psychological insight offered a much-needed diversion for Maddie and Max, causing them to question the validity of their previous encounters. Lucas observed with relief how Emma's integration into their daily routine appeared to dispel the shadow of fear that had loomed over his children, restoring a semblance of peace and normalcy to their home. However, this respite proved short-lived. Just a week into her role as the children's nanny, an incident occurred that shattered any notion of their fears being merely products of imagination. While Emma and Maddie were sharing a quiet dinner in the kitchen, a blood-curdling scream from Max, echoing from upstairs, propelled them into action. Hastening to investigate, they found Max on the floor, his eyes wide with terror, fixed upon a message scrawled across the corridor wall in what appeared to be blood. "I'm back to hunt you down. Trash." In a state of panic, all three, Emma, Maddie, and Max, bolted downstairs, their screams rending the tense air of the house. In the frantic scramble to escape, Max tripped, resulting in a bloody knee. Despite the injury, the urgency of the moment impelled them forward. Emma and Maddie, driven by instinct to protect Max, swiftly assisted him to his feet, and together they continued their desperate flight to safety. Their refuge came in the form of their neighbor's home, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson's. Renowned for their kindness and community spirit, the Andersons offered a sanctuary in the midst of their terrifying ordeal. The sudden appearance of the distressed trio, coupled with Max's injury, undoubtedly stirred immediate concern and action from the Andersons, providing the children and Emma with a temporary respite from the horrors that seemed to besiege their home. Within the hour, Lucas arrived at the Andersons' doorstep, his heart weighed down by concern. He gathered Max and Maddie into his embrace, offering them words of reassurance and promises of safety. Determined to confront whatever menace had instilled such fear in his children, he ventured back to the house, bracing himself for the unsettling discovery that awaited. Upon reaching the ominous message on the wall, Lucas's initial shock morphed into confusion and then skepticism as he realized the blood was nothing more than tomato sauce. While this revelation brought a sense of relief, it also gave rise to a plethora of emotions and questions regarding the origin and intent behind the unsettling act. Overwhelmed by the unfolding events and feeling perhaps out of her depth, Emma, the babysitter, chose to tender her resignation the following day. Lucas, on the other hand, grappled with the unsettling possibility that Max might have orchestrated the elaborate scare, interpreting it as a cry for help or an expression of dissatisfaction with their current living situation. Contemplating the sequence of recent events and the profound impact of Ava's absence on his family, Lucas arrived at a momentous decision. Believing that a change of environment might hold the key to healing and offering a fresh start for his children, he resolved to depart from the house steeped in memories of their late mother. In his estimation, a new home could provide the space and opportunity for the family to reconstruct their lives and facilitate the improvement of the children's mental well-being away from the lingering shadows of their current residence. The decision to relocate brought a tangible sense of relief and anticipation to Maddie and Max. The prospect of leaving behind the unsettling occurrences and embarking on a new chapter in a different setting buoyed their spirits significantly. For the first time in a while, they allowed themselves to entertain genuine optimism about the future, embracing the change as a positive step forward for their family. Recognizing the importance of stability and support for his children during this transitional period, Lucas opted to take a leave of absence from his job. This choice not only allowed him to be physically present for Maddie and Max, offering them solace and reassurance, but also afforded him the opportunity to oversee the practicalities of the move. Lucas reached out to various real estate agencies, initiating the process of selling their current home. His proactive approach mirrored his dedication to his children's well-being and his determination to expedite their relocation to a new environment, one he hoped would be devoid of the distressing experiences that had plagued their lives in recent months. This relocation marked a significant turning point for the family, heralding the commencement of a new chapter and the promise of a fresh start. On a chilly winter morning, as Lucas and his children gathered in the kitchen, relishing the warmth and comfort of breakfast together, their tranquility was abruptly shattered. Disturbing noises reverberated from upstairs, prompting Lucas to investigate, propelled by a protective urgency. What he encountered upstairs was a scene that sent shivers down his spine. A figure loomed in Maddie's room, bearing an eerie resemblance to his late wife, adorned in her attire. The surreal sight was enough to freeze Lucas in his tracks, momentarily immobilized by shock. As the figure pivoted, the horror of the situation escalated. Lucas was not met with the familiar countenance of his wife but with a stranger brandishing an axe, their visage distorted by a wig clumsily mimicking Ava's hair. The realization that this was a man masquerading in his late wife's garb sent a surge of terror coursing through him, compelling him to act swiftly. Lucas's instinctual scream echoed with both fear and alarm, a primal call to action that jolted him back downstairs. With swift determination, he gathered his children, the urgency of the threat slicing through the shock, and guided them out of the house to safety. Yet, despite the immediate peril, Lucas's concern for his home and the need to confront the intruder propelled him back inside. The once peaceful haven of his family now resembled a battlefield. Yet, upon re-entering, Lucas found no trace of the intruder, the eerie silence of the house offering no clues to the whereabouts of the menacing figure. It was amidst this unsettling calm that Lucas resolved to contact the police, reporting the harrowing incident that had just unfolded within their home. As the police arrived, Lucas, accompanied by Maddie and Max, stood anxiously in the yard, the frigid morning air mingling with the tense atmosphere born from their recent ordeal. Lucas recounted the events to the officers with a fervor fueled by fear and bewilderment. He insisted that the intruder, the mysterious figure wielding an axe, had not exited the house, yet also conveyed his belief that whatever malevolent presence they had feared, the so-called spirit of the axe, was no longer within their midst. The police officers, seasoned in approaching such situations with a blend of skepticism and thoroughness, wasted no time commencing their inspection of the house. Their search led them to Maddie's room, where they made a startling discovery, a hidden aperture within her wardrobe. This unexpected revelation would soon unlock the mystery enveloping the Miller family. As the investigation unfolded, the truth emerged from behind Maddie's wardrobe, shedding light on the nature of the disturbances that had plagued the family. This revelation not only promised to dispel the immediate terror sparked by the morning's frightful encounter but also aimed to address the deeper, lingering questions that had tormented Lucas and his children since the onset of the unsettling events. The police's discovery marked a pivotal moment, offering the initial glimmer of hope for understanding and closure to the beleaguered family. The hidden aperture in Maddie's wardrobe led to a stunning revelation, a crawl space that traversed beneath the old houses of Salem, including the Miller family's abode. This concealed network, colloquially known as a crawl space, interconnected various parts of the house, unbeknownst to the occupants above. The police's thorough examination of this crawl space uncovered a startling truth. A teenager named Dan had made this covert underbelly of the house his clandestine refuge. For an extended period, Dan had been residing unseen within the depths of the Miller home, his presence eluding detection by the family residing just feet above. Scattered amidst his makeshift living quarters were the unmistakable remnants of his presence, discarded beer bottles, a sleeping bag, and remnants of food, identified as items, pilfered from the Miller household. It became apparent that Dan had sustained himself with provisions pilfered from Lucas and his children, blurring the lines between the family's experiences of supernatural disturbances and the stark intrusion upon their privacy and security. Dan's backstory paints a picture of a troubled youth, grappling with deep-seated issues stemming from a turbulent family life. His parents' separation at an early age and the subsequent torment from his stepmother left him emotionally scarred, propelling him into a life marred by instability and neglect. This harsh reality pushed Dan to the fringes of society, where he survived through petty thefts and nights spent on the cold streets, a testament to his desperation and the severe neglect he endured. The mental health challenges Dan faced were a direct consequence of his prolonged neglect and the adversities of his upbringing. Lacking a stable support system and driven by the need to find some semblance of belonging or connection, Dan's actions, though misguided, were his way of coping with his isolation and pain. His fixation on Maddie, born out of a chance observation that grew into an obsession, led him to invade the privacy of the Miller family in a profoundly disturbing manner. Dan's method of maintaining a presence in their lives, by creating peepholes in the walls, was not just a violation of their privacy but also an indication of his deep-seated longing for connection and his skewed perception of relationships. Dan's actions, while they cannot be justified, highlight the complex interplay of neglect, mental health issues, and the human desire for connection. His presence in the Miller home, initially perceived as a malevolent spirit, was a tangible manifestation of his struggles and the lengths to which he went to feel closer to someone, even in the most twisted and invasive way. Dan's initial decision to play a joke on Maddie and Max by exploiting their attempt to summon spirits was driven by a misguided sense of amusement and an opportunity to exert control over his environment. The reaction of fear and panic from the siblings fed into Dan's distorted need for acknowledgement, fueling a sense of pride within him that had been long denied by his societal and familial exclusion. This perverse satisfaction derived from terrorizing the family led Dan to escalate his actions, turning the manipulation into a twisted form of entertainment for himself. However, the family's plans to sell the house threatened to upend the precarious existence Dan had carved out within their walls, prompting a climactic revelation of his presence. Given Dan's age and the acknowledgement of his mental health issues, exacerbated by years of neglect and abuse, the legal system opted for a rehabilitative approach by sending him to a mental institution. This decision aimed to address the root causes of his behavior, offering a chance for treatment and possibly redemption. However, Dan's story takes a darker turn following his release. The narrative of his life post-institution suggests that the interventions were insufficient to redirect his path away from crime. As an adult, Dan transitioned from a troubled youth with a penchant for mischief and voyeurism to a figure embroiled in more serious criminal activities. This evolution of Dan's character from a disillusioned teenager to a dangerous criminal underscores the complexities of addressing deeply ingrained psychological issues and the consequences of societal neglect. Dan's story, while beginning as a haunting tale intertwined with the lives of the Miller family, ultimately diverges into a cautionary tale about the long-term impacts of untreated mental health problems and the potential for escalation into more significant criminal behavior. The end.
Enjoying these stories, I'd love for you to join our community by subscribing to the channel and giving a thumbs up to the stories you like. Your thoughts and opinions mean a lot to me, so please feel free to leave a comment below and share your views. Your support is greatly appreciated, and it helps us bring more exciting content to you. Thank you for being part of our story-loving family. Elham Ghoreishi.